So happy to be here for the second time. Hi, everybody. Now, this notion that before I go on, I want to talk about the difference between translation and interpretation, and everybody makes the same mistake everywhere I go, regardless how professional or familiar they are. Translator is the guy that sits at home in his slippers and his underpants and does this. Interpreter is the guy that uses his voice to convey the language. And just an example that happened this morning I'm going to read this out. Well, this is why I took my phone. Last week I was working with the municipality of Yekaterinburg, and we were talking about the changes in the bus and tram and metro and trolleybus routes. And there's a report which says, quote, I'm going to read it in both languages so that you understand first in Russian. Наши специалисты находили общий язык с Джаредом благодаря наушникам для синхронного перевода. Now in English, our specialists found a common language with Jared due to the headphones for simultaneous interpretation. Of course, nobody needs interpreters. You have headphones. You just take it on, you select the language, and it does everything for you. Okay, here we go. Who has ever been to London? Can I see some hands? Who's been to London? I've been invited to London to do an event, and we went there, and it was an amazing place. We went to the Tower, we went to the Tower Bridge, we went to we rode down the Thames on this lovely little ship. By the way, this is my colleague, his name is Victor. Then we went to the Big Ben, and then we went to a pub, and then we went to another pub, and then we went to another pub. And pubs were fun, and so was London. Who knows who this guy is? No. No, I know, but who else knows? Okay, you know, good. This is Toни Роббинса, and allegedly this is the best personal coach in the world. Well, after I've been to his event, I probably believe it. And just as a reference, this is how much you have to pay to get in. This is like the very bottom price, and you get the very end of the room seats, like all the way down there where you have to use your binoculars to see. But this is how much you have to pay. And they give you a money-back guarantee if you don't like it. It's 4.5 days of fun and education and, what's this new word? Edutainment, that's what they call it. This isn't advertising, this is just an idea. So for somebody who comes from, let's say, another country like Russia to listen and see Toни Роббинса and pays this amount of money, try and imagine what expectations they have for what they get at this event. And this price, by the way, goes all the way up to £5,000 for like the top seats. So what they expect is like really, really serious, and this guy, he works his butt off when he's on stage. So he goes out there and he just makes everybody jump, and he makes everybody clap and hug and give everybody high fives, and it's all excitement and a lot of fun. But when you're sitting there in a booth, right, so this is, by the way, so this is an event, it's 8,000 people from 60 countries, and there was interpretation into 9 languages at the same time. So there was this whole row of booths at the end of the room where we sat, and this is what the room looks like when Toни walks on stage. So this is the back of the room, right? And this is us sitting there, this is my colleagues, and this is another shot, and this is me. And for the first day, I put a tie on for some strange reason. I don't know why, because everybody was wearing like t-shirts, and I was in a tie. I felt like an idiot. And so he just puts it full on. He makes people, he talks about something, he tells you a topic, he uncovers this, he gives examples, and then he just makes sure that nobody falls asleep. Something like this happens. From 9 o'clock in the morning till 1 o'clock at night, 4 days in a row. This is how it goes. It's an amazing, absolutely amazing event. So when we came there, we knew what's going to be in the program, and this is another important thing. So when we came there, we knew what's going to be in the program, and we knew how Toni speaks. And there is a warning that we use explicit language. And this word, with this letter being right there, comes out of his mouth every 10 seconds when he's talking about something specific. So try and imagine, we're sitting in the booth, we know that we have to somehow support the notion of language because it's important. He explains why hard language is important, but we cannot use the 3 very bad Russian words that start with the letter B, that starts with the letter P, and that start with the letter What was the third? All right, just these two. Okay, just these two. So we had to all be very, very, we had to figure out the synonyms for less rude words, but that would still convey the language. And one of the examples was, are there any English-speaking children in the room? Good. So the first example, children. The first example was when Tony goes on stage and says, I'm going to use some hard language, for example, just so that you understand if I say the word cock. How different is it to the word penis? And I'm sitting there in the booth and I'm translating to Russian, если я сейчас выйду вот на сцену и скажу слово хрен. Чем оно отличается от, and I use the other word. And this is how it all started. And after that, in the booth, it was 4 days of absolute excitement. We were screaming, we were shouting, and we were trying to convey just as much emotion from inside the booth as Tony was doing on stage. Before the end of day one, everybody in the room, so those 6,000 people had to do a fire walk, right? So they had to go outside, they had to take off their shoes, and there were like coal, beds of coal, of red hot coal that you had to literally walk on. And Tony was saying how you should do it. He says, well, what you do, you go out there, you kind of pump yourself and you go, I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it, and then you just go. And we're sitting there at the back of the room and we're saying, is that how you are supposed to walk on coal? On coal, like on fire, you're supposed to walk on fire. Okay, fine. So what he says is that if you do it kind of, if your mind starts playing with you, you have to imagine that you're walking on cool moss. Okay, fine, so imagine cool moss, grassy and nice and cold. So me and my colleague are sitting there and he's like, are we gonna do this? I'm saying, of course we're gonna do this because we are supposed to interpret for the people that will be doing this tonight. How do you expect us to do our job if we don't experience the same thing as they do? So we take our shoes off, we walk outside, and we're walking down, and I'm thinking, well, Tony said it's like cool moss. Well, fine, it's cool moss. When I walk up to it, it's nothing like cool moss. It's a bed of red hot coal right in front of you, and you're looking at it, and you're thinking, I'm gonna walk on that, and then you just do. And that was one of the most amazing experiences I ever actually have experienced. So this was a lot of fun, and this was a lot of excitement. Now, this is the view that we had to the left and to the right. There were 3 booths down the left. There were 4 more to the right. And all of these people were doing the same thing. We were jumping in there, we were dancing in there, we were screaming, and we were shouting. And by the end of day 2, we had a whole fan group of our own. The Russian participants of this seminar, they were walking up to the booth, they were giving us high fives, they were giving us thumbs up, they were bringing us chocolates, nuts, and other goodies to help us feed because we were just bringing it on. And now the funny thing is that usually after a whole day of work you get tired, but this event showed that we were getting off work, we were finishing interpreting at about 1:30 in the morning. We had to start at 7, 8 o'clock the next morning. We were not feeling tired. Yes, I mean, we were feeling tired, but it wasn't like exhausted tired. It was just, you know, well, yeah, I probably would like 5 hours of sleep now, something like that. So that was exciting. Now, we did a very good job because we got invited to the next event, so that probably shows that the audience liked us. And we're going to do another Tony Роббинса event. But what eventually, essentially, I got out for this myself is going back to the concept that I shared last time, which is this. So, yeah, I like talking about this thing. So Tony spoke a lot about personal development, about how to grow oneself, about how to build relationships, about how to build your professional careers, your skills, how to learn, how to be better, how to eat right, what not to do, what to do, well, all of these interesting things. And I mean, you can read on the internet and in his books what he talks about rather than me doing that. But it all goes back to this concept of mine, and it's all about personal growth and your family and friends and what you learn and how you apply it in your life. So that was it from me. Thank you very much. Nah, it doesn't work.
Hi, and thanks for the wonderful speech about interpreting. I remember you mentioning how close you were to the public, but what about the artist himself? How close you, interpreters of different languages, were able to connect with Mr. Роббинс?
Well, he was right in my head because I had headphones and I could hear him right there, but I was the furthest person away from him in the whole room. So he was on stage and I was all the way in the back of the room, even behind those people who paid the cheapest price. So I was all the way back.
It wasn't like you had some events behind curtains.
Well, we did. There was one event where I was there just in case somebody wanted to ask him a question. Nobody eventually did, but it was like a closed-door event with Tony for the platinum and gold VIP participants. Well, yes, we were in one room and he was standing like, let's say, this far away from me like you are. A big guy, I mean, he's huge, he's that tall.
That's close enough, I guess.
He's tall.
Thank you so much.
Hello. Have you ever, how to say? I'm thinking about that mechanism in your brain between your brain and your mouth. And have you ever been in a situation when that mechanism isn't working? For example, you know what to say, but you can't. As well as if maybe it's broken gearbox in your brain, and you know it's. What do you do in that situations when it doesn't work and you don't know why?
Okay, I have time for a long answer. It happened earlier in my career when I just started doing this, but we teach this. So within our company, we have a school for simultaneous interpreters, and we have a mechanism. So we take a student, we put him in a booth, we give him headphones, and we give him a complicated speaker. For example, somebody like Tony Роббинса, somebody who speaks very fast, and you have to really struggle to interpret him. And we tell him, so now you just do your thing. When we give you a signal, if you're right-handed, you start drawing with your left hand. If you're left-handed, you start drawing with your right hand in your notepad. At the same time, you have to keep on going and interpret. All right? So, as a guess, just anybody, which situation would be better? Before the person starts doing this dribbling with his left hand or after it? It happens after, and people get amazed, and I was amazed when they did it to me for the first time. So it's a skill. What you need to do, you need to create a skill in your subconsciousness, and then you just have to create a trigger to activate it. And when you do something with the opposite side of your body, if you're right-handed with your left hand, for example, what happens is that your consciousness gets focused on that, and your subconsciousness just pulls out all those skills out of the core of the back of your mind, and they just keep on coming. So when I feel that I'm starting to fall behind the speaker, I just start dribbling with my left hand, drawing something or trying to write or something, but that hasn't happened for a very long time because I trained myself to do this without doing it, kind of. So.
Do you feel sometimes that your brain warming up physically? I mean, inside your head?
We measured it. We actually did it. Well, not inside the head, but we measured it. We were at a conference, and it was like a conference for translators, so we were experimenting. And I was in a booth, and every 15 minutes, my colleague was taking my blood pressure and my body temperature measurements. I was interpreting alone, so without a partner. Usually when you're doing simultaneous interpreting, you have a partner, you change every 20, 30 minutes. I was doing it alone. After 1 hour and 45 minutes, my body temperature went up to 37.5 degrees, and my blood pressure went up to 140 to 110. We got another one right here in front of us. No, use the microphone. Feel uncomfortable.
Okay, hello, my name is Kate. I have some experience of simultaneous interpreting, but before going to such kind of experience, I knew about some kind of topics I was going to speak about, so I could predict some of them. And it's my fair belief that it's quite closely connected to your experience. So if you don't know what the person is talking about, it's 100% is impossible to speak about this. So what do you think about this kind of sphere? So if I'm speaking about some kind of religious topic, about some history of religious or esoterics, would you be able to help people understand me, or it's completely impossible?
It is possible, but it won't be able to do it immediately. So, right, like what we did with Tony, first of all, I didn't read his books like read them, but I did read them diagonally, two of them. So I just went through them to understand what he's going to be talking about. Was much easier because he was going down the topics of his book. And then I just went on YouTube and I watched some of his videos. But if you're talking about a more complicated topic like religious, then yes, you would have to spend a lot of time in preparation. You don't need to go deep, but you need to have a context overview of the thing that you're going to be interpreting. Regardless what it is, we do everything. Like we can go from Tony Роббинса to talking about public transport last week, to talking about constructivism the week before, to talking about metallurgical production just literally yesterday. So it's about how you prepare to the topic.
And one more notice, maybe not like a question. So how much should you be interested in the topic to tell about my emotions and my opinion about this? If I'm saying, for example, that this is true and this is wrong, you are like interpreter. You can disagree with me, yeah. But your task.
I don't have the liberty. I don't have the liberty to disagree with you, and I shouldn't be thinking about how I'm interested in the topic or not. I cannot love it at all and do a good job at the same time. You don't. The idea is you do not have to think that you're doing this for yourself, right? So this job is one of the biggest giving jobs that there is. So I have an audience, and my job is to make sure that that audience understands what you say in the best possible way. And if you're standing there on stage and you're talking like this, and then I'm going to do the same thing. But if you're running around and saying that I love to do this and that, I'm going to be sitting in the booth and going to be doing exactly the same thing. So it's all about transferring the emotion and the context in a way that the audience understands it. And whether I like it or not, well, tough luck. It's not my call. I should have thought about when I was taking the job.
So you should know the stylistic of English and Russian so that you can give this idea.
That is true. So there is a skill that needs to be developed, yes.
Yeah, even if I'm talking some stuff.
We can't continue this conversation when we're back at our tables. We're out of time.
Thank you. Thank you, Konstantin.